Okay, so have you ever been stuck in a really frustrating moment? Maybe dealing with a sudden illness, a heartbreaking loss, or honestly, even just the endless daily grind, and found yourself wondering, man, if life is supposed to be this incredible gift, why does it have to be so difficult? It's a universal human anxiety, right? We all grapple with suffering and mortality at some point. Well, today we're diving into a fascinating philosophical explainer that tackles some of the absolute oldest questions in human history. We're going to unpack a really radical perspective that totally flips our standard understanding of life upside down. Specifically, we're examining the core concepts presented in Ryuho Okawa's book, The World of Eternal Life, zeroing in on Chapter 5. The text offers this incredibly unique framework for understanding the mechanics of our existence. It asks, what happens after we die? And, perhaps way more importantly for us right now, why do we suffer so much today? It's a profound, major paradigm-shifting perspective, and we're going to explore it thoroughly using the source material itself. To make sense of all this, here is our roadmap for this explainer. First, the problem of suffering. Second, a temporary physical world. Third, the soul and its vehicle. Fourth, discipline through physical constraints. And finally, number 5, building the Buddha land. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the problem of suffering and facing life's universal pain. We really need to start with the most relatable human experience out there. Because, let's be real, if life is meant to be so good, why is it often incredibly painful? The text anchors its entire philosophy on what it calls the 4 sufferings. These are the unavoidable physical realities that absolutely every single human faces. We all experience the inevitable process of getting older, the physical breakdown of falling ill, and eventually the absolute finality of dying. But, the text goes even deeper. It suggests that even just entering this world, birth itself, is a trauma for the soul. Just imagine being this completely free entity, suddenly forced into a tiny, confined, fragile little space. That initial shock basically sets the stage for all the physical realities of human existence. But the author expands these physical agonies to include the emotional and psychological ones too. The stuff that makes up our modern daily frustrations. Beyond just getting sick or aging, life practically guarantees that we're going to be forced to deal with people we strongly dislike. Think of a really difficult boss or a completely toxic neighbor. It also guarantees we'll eventually be separated from the people we love the absolute most, and that we'll constantly battle with unfulfilled desires, just endlessly chasing things we can't quite attain. Which brings us to the profound philosophical question the text is ultimately trying to answer. If we are meant to be happy, why on earth do we have to endure all this anguish? It honestly seems almost cruel when you look at it strictly from a physical standpoint. So, to answer that, the source material drops a major paradigm shift, completely reframing how we view reality itself. Moving right along to Section 2, a temporary physical world and that big paradigm shift. So, here is the crucial point the author makes, and it's a fascinating plot twist. The book argues that the very existence of all this intense suffering is actually absolute proof that this physical world is merely a temporary world. Think about the sheer paradox here. If this physical existence were our true, ultimate reality, it would logically be perfect, right? But because it's defined by decay, loss, pain, and heavy limitations, the author asserts that it simply cannot be the ultimate destination. According to the philosophy in the book, our pain directly stems from treating a temporary, fleeting illusion as if it were absolute and permanent. Basically, we suffer because we desperately cling to things. We stress over our fading youth, we panic about losing a job, or we fiercely hold on to material possessions, fundamentally misunderstanding that they were literally never meant to last in the first place. Clinging to a temporary world is what creates our agony. So, if the physical world is just an illusion, how does the text explain the actual mechanics of our daily existence? That brings us perfectly to Section 3, the soul and its vehicle, the mechanics of existence. The text uses this brilliant, highly relatable core metaphor. Your physical body is simply a vehicle, exactly like a car. And your true self, your consciousness and identity, that's the eternal soul sitting right there in the driver's seat. Under this framework, your brain isn't magically producing your consciousness out of nowhere. Rather, your soul is simply using your brain as a steering wheel to operate the physical vehicle. This analogy completely reframes how we view death, and honestly, it brings an incredible sense of relief. When a car breaks down on the side of the road and the engine permanently stops moving, the driver doesn't cease to exist. The driver simply steps out of the broken vehicle and walks away. The physical body might stop functioning, sure, but the eternal life within it just continues right on going.
Let's dive into Section 4, Discipline through Physical Constraints, the idea of the spiritual school.
Now, all this naturally leads us to ask, why would an eternal, free soul bother getting into a fragile, temporary, and easily broken physical vehicle in the first place? Well, the author frames this earthly life as a study abroad program. It's such a relatable analogy, and it makes the concept of spiritual training instantly click. You leave your comfortable home country, meaning the spiritual world, to go to a foreign place. Suddenly, you have to deal with intense friction. The language is different, the rules are totally foreign, you get homesick, and you have to struggle just to get by. Those everyday frustrations, they are perfect metaphors for our earthly struggles. The text actually outlines a precise curriculum for this study abroad program. The eternal soul intentionally descends to the physical world and inhabits a body specifically to experience limitations. You see, in the spiritual world, thought instantly becomes reality. But here, in the physical world, there's a heavy delay. You have to work, sweat, wait, and deal with massive friction. And here is the profound paradigm shift. The friction is a feature, not a bug. Actually, scratch that. The friction is the entire point. The author states that these exact physical constraints are what polish and discipline the soul, forcing it to grow and evolve in ways that would be completely impossible back in the utter comfort of its spiritual home. And, comfortingly, the text proposes that death is not a final goodbye, and it's certainly not a tragedy. It is simply the natural conclusion of the study abroad program. Your visa expires, your classes are finally over, and you just return to your true home country. You leave all that heavy baggage of the physical body behind. Now, with all of this in mind, what is the grand purpose of graduating from this school? This leads us to our final stop, Section 5, Building the Buddha Land, the Ultimate Mission. According to the book, the goal isn't just to quietly suffer through your study abroad program and eventually go home. No way. Once a person awakens to these true values, realizing that they're an eternal soul in a temporary classroom, their mission shifts dramatically. They are called to shine brightly and spread this truth to as many people as possible. The goal is to construct an ideal world right here, right now, which the text refers to as the Buddha Land. And just to be clear, this isn't some mystical realm up in the clouds. It's the author's term for building an active, ideal society on Earth based on these exact spiritual truths. The book concludes by offering a sense of deep empowerment. Instead of being paralyzed victims of the physical world's temporary sufferings, readers are strongly urged to be active builders. By understanding the true nature of eternal life, individuals are encouraged to promise the eternal evolution of life for absolutely everyone, pushing back against the illusion of despair and actively transforming their environment. It's a real call to action. So we've traced a pretty grand arc today, right? We went from viewing our daily frustrations as meaningless suffering to recognizing them as a highly intentional curriculum designed for our profound growth. I'm going to leave you with a final thought to ponder based on this fascinating framework. If your physical constraints, your annoying encounters, and your earthly challenges are just part of a temporary classroom, what specific lesson is your soul studying right now?